Hey, I got a question and a comment on one of my DNRS Journal videos from Grace asking me for more information about a more detailed description about how I do training myself. Now, I will say that I have posted a video on weaning off of DNRS, and that's where I am right now. I still do a certain version of it. Um, that I consider just ongoing training, but that doesn't really help people who are going through it right now, and it's not what Grace was asking for. Uh, and I have been thinking about making a video where I go through and talk about how I have improvised because I haven't really stuck very precisely to the original script. I started that way, and I would return to it when things got when I would have a flare up, I would kind of go back to basics. And I do want to at some point post a video where I talk about what ideas kind of guided me through the improvisation over 6 months successfully. Um, but in the meantime, I recalled that I recorded a session once back in February, 3 weeks really into doing DNRS, and I recorded it for strictly for my own benefit, not to share. So it's with some considerable hesitation that I do share it. But if it helps other people, then I'm all for it. All right. I recorded it anticipating times where I did have a flare up and I just did not feel up to doing a training session, and figuring it might be better to hear me do my training session, just play the recording back to myself, than not to do it or to just do a very lame job of it. I can't remember whether I actually made use of it in that way, maybe once. And I listened to it this morning, and maybe it's worth putting out there. Though this is all you'll know if you've heard Annie Hopper describe the training sessions. You'll see that this is already improvising 3 weeks in, and it's not the full session. I leave some things out. I leave the positive memories and maybe a couple of things out. I do cut off my affirmation, or I can't remember what that's called in the process, honestly. Mainly because that's each of you has your own, and it shouldn't be influenced or changed by mine. Just make your own your own. So I cut that part out, but you'll get a sense of kind of what I was doing for a lot of those 6 months. And I will warn you, it's very slow, and you are likely to find it kind of boring, but if you're patient, there may be some insights in there that will help you if you're going through it struggling to come up with ideas with your own training. So again, I didn't make the recording for this purpose. It's just an audio recording. I'll find some pretty picture to put up while you listen to it. It's about 23 or 4 minutes in length. So anyway, here we go. Hope it helps. My brain is in a rut. My brain is in a rut, and it is sending false messages to my body. My brain has been in a rut, and it has been sending false messages to my body. What I had interpreted in the past as symptoms of exposure to mold, what I had assumed quite naturally was sickness caused from a reaction to my environment, especially mold. I now see increasingly clearly that these were in fact symptoms of not sickness. That's the bizarre thing. They seem like sick symptoms. They are not symptoms of sickness. They are symptoms of injury and damage to my brain's limbic system, which is now misfiring and sending out all sorts of false signals. I assume some combination of hypersensitivity to things that may in fact not be good for me, but that I'm handling fine, actually. But it's just sending off these alarms, and a fair amount of just barking at shadows in the night. Which explains why my symptoms have been so perplexing and fit no pattern, which only added to the frustration and the emotional reaction to the symptoms. All got bound up together. And above all, it explains this limbic system business, explains why, just the biggest puzzle of all, which is why do places that didn't make me sick before I got chronic exposure to Stachybotrys, which is genuinely toxic mold, everybody knows that. Why after that, and after removing myself from that environment, and after it had been remediated and so forth and so on and so on, and detoxing and blah blah blah, why am I on a hair trigger all the time? I have wondered for years. Why do places make me sick? I have wondered, that didn't make me sick before. To which there really was no clear answer, except that something in my immune system was turned on that couldn't be turned off. Something. What? I don't know. We don't understand how these things work well enough. Well, okay. Here it is. We know how the limbic system works. So A, explain it as an explanatory model. Boom. Nails. B, empirically. Okay, let's start with my own experience. Empirically, my own experience, my symptoms 2 weeks in have not, it's true, been 100% eliminated. This is a long-term rehabilitation process. But there is no question that they have been lightened. Are they less frequent? Yes, I think yes. But more noticeable than the frequency is the diminishment in depth. Variety of symptoms has reduced dramatically. I won't even go through all the symptoms. I've been told that that's not a good idea. But just suffice it to say that the variety of symptoms has gone from the 10 to 15 down to 1 mostly. Small number, put it that way. And the emotional component is, I would say, 90+% better in 2 weeks, the emotional component. That is the depression, the dread, anyway, not supposed to talk about this, but that stuff. So, empirics part 2 is the testimonials, and this is an important part of the training. Not an actual aspect of these training sessions that I'm in, but an important support for those training sessions, to see person after person after person who was more messed up than I have been, longer. Maybe me at my very worst years ago. It was somewhere close, but even then, no. These people are, some of them anyway, bad off. And how many of them have experienced A, dramatic improvement in a relatively short amount of time, and B, complete 100% recovery. 100% recovery, retraining, rewiring of their brain, retraining of their limbic system. So, we got theory, we got empirics, we have my own experience. Now, it's a slow process. It is a slow process. It's kind of amazing that these people have been sick for years and even decades, experience so much improvement in the span of days. That is true. But nevertheless, what we are talking about is a physical rut in my brain that needs to be undone and replaced with new neural pathways. That's a process of removing a long-standing habit, so to speak, habitual reaction of my limbic system, of calming that and having new associations, new neurological pathways be established to replace those old ones. This takes time. Habituation takes time. Breaking habituation takes time. Breaking it, we know this. We know this. Breaking deep-grained habituation takes time. Now, so these exercises, this training, bringing myself back to think through again and again, not merely saying the words, but I am recording this because I assume that hearing myself think through really will be, I will be listening to this at a time when I'm not motivated, or maybe I'm feeling bad. This is anticipating that the healing will not be a seamless straight line, which, knock on wood, I hope it is, of course. But others have reported, others who have come out entirely 100% the other end have reported that for them it was not simply a straight line, and that there were plenty of times when they returned to feeling bad for a spell, and therefore would find it hard to be motivated or even have the mental energy to go through it, which makes sense. For me, one of the symptoms, one of the signals sending from my limbic system can certainly be such as to both reduce my drive, my motivation, and my ability to concentrate, this brain fog. Now, I will say that that has very much lightened. Again, knock on wood so far. That's very much lightened. But, again, to return, bringing back into my mind habitually, retraining, long process over time, in itself, principles of CF, principles of neuroplasticity, in itself making conscious in my mind and thinking through, actually, not just mouthing the words, but having the concept become clear in my head, and my reason is in itself retraining my limbic system. So, discipline. This is a discipline. This is a discipline of the soul part of which is inextricably bound to the body, that is to say, in this case, the brain. Turn to myself, and I am on my right for some reason, but I'm always on my right, it seems, during these sessions, and I tell myself, J.O., good, keeping it up, keeping it up, keeping it up, keeping it up. Discipline. Do not relent in your discipline. Now to my limbic system. Limbic system. You are on my left. Unless you're in my office, in which case you sit in the chair in front of me. But in this case, you're over there on my left. Now, here's what I'm supposed to say to you. That I know that you've been doing your best to protect me. But, you are now, it is now time to step down and rest. It is now time to rest. You think you are responding to the environment, whereas in fact you have an injury that needs to heal. And how do we heal injuries? Oh, animal brain, limbic system. Let me ask you, animal brain, how do we heal injuries? We heal injuries through rest. We heal injuries through resting the injured part. So this is what these exercises are doing for you, for me, providing the support for you, limbic system, to step down and relax and rest so that you can recuperate and heal from this injury. And healing, it takes time. This too we know, don't we? So, when there is an occasional flare-up from agitation of some sort or other, or just, why is it flaring up right now? Healing takes time. So, you're actually doing really, really well. And the two things at this point that I want to rehearse with you. One is that as you do start to set off alarms, I want you to be attuned to my intervention. Expect my intervention. When the intervention comes, just the mere fact of the intervention, I want all the reassurances, all the implications of the intervention, the disruption. That is the message back to you that no, there's nothing out there. There's nothing out there in the dark. We're going to turn on the light. We're going to look at the dark. We're going to put our hands on your shoulders and help you relax. And that's what the intervention is doing. So as soon as you start to hear those words, my brain is in a rut. My brain is in a rut. The whole process will increasingly come back to you, and you'll calm down quicker and quicker. I already see this happening. Point number 2 is to be aware that there are things such as being sleepy or being frustrated that have been for a long time frequently bound up with this feeling that we were sick. But I will continue to experience these as a living human being. And they will not mean that I am sick. So sometimes you, limbic system, will respond to a bad night's sleep on my part, having trouble waking up in the morning. And you, naturally, will think, here we are. You're interpreting this as mold, the alarm goes off, and so forth. And then I have trouble myself sorting out what the hell is going on, what's the limit, and then I'm also sleepy and it's hard to respond, and so that can be kind of a mess. Now that hasn't happened the last few days. In fact, now that I think about it, I've been reminding you of this for about 3 days, and you've been much better about that. And that's particularly in the morning. I think that's part of the issue in the morning. The mornings seem to be particularly confusing historically in the past for you, Mr. Limbic System. But again, my figuring out that connection, noticing that connection myself, and Mr. Conscious Brain has helped disrupt that. And that applies to other things, again, like I said, like being frustrated or what have you. Even feeling blue, right? There will be times in life when I will, be in a down mood. And guess what? Down mood does not mean that I am physically sick. So, disassociating that sort of thing is one thing I want you to be attuned to. And yeah, I want to increasingly kind of confront you with one of these challenges. It's things that I associate with being sick, big one being Emory. One being this basement that I'm in right now. So yeah. Alright, so I'm going to come back. I think for this recording I'm going to do the memory thing on my own, but unrecorded. But I'm going to end this recording with my, affirmation? What's it called? Daily affirmation? Oh, that's not what it's called. Anyway, whatever it's called. And that is to say that, one other thought I want to get down on record, and that is this. Energy. One of the things that I have felt for a long time is depleted energy, especially intellectual energy, but all around energy and drive. And I now recognize that as my limbic system, as my animal brain has been on hyper alert and barking and agitated and uncertain and so forth, it has been absorbing energy, understandably, but to no purpose, squandering energy that I, properly speaking, am not low energy. My energy is being consumed by my injured limbic system, and as my limbic system heals and recovers and calms, that energy, intrinsic energy, will be freed